All right, so a question that we get asked all the time is, how do I increase my show rate, or how do I decrease the amount of no-shows coming through your funnel? Now, the interesting part about show rate is, let's say you're booking 100 calls per month and you want to increase the show rate from 60 to 70%, which is pretty reasonable, right? And you have an average order value of $10,000. Now, this is a massive difference. This leads to about, if you're at 25% closing rate, anywhere between like $25,000 to $40,000 per month in additional revenue, or $580,000 over the course of the year. So these small shifts, even a 10% shift, can be massive. Now, the question is, how do we actually increase show rate? I know a lot of you have tried so many different things without identifying a good solution. So this is going to show you the exact framework that RevPilot uses to increase your show rate. And if you do each of these, I promise you will see a lift in that. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We call it the CASCADE Framework. So essentially, the C stands for contact within the first 60 seconds. So we need to make sure that as soon as that opt-in or that, call booking happens, we are automatically shooting out a text message and an email. Okay. And I'll explain what is in that text message in just a moment, but we need to make sure that this happens. Now, something you also want to do is make sure that this goes out at any time of the day, because they may book at 1 a.m. And normally you would not text someone at 1 a.m, but they just opted in. So we know they are awake. We know that they are active. So we want to make sure that we get that engagement as quickly as possible. Okay. So immediate action is going to be very, very important. The second part is messaging tips. So we want to use a personalized message like, hey, Jordan, saw your response. Let's lock this in quick before the day fills up. Okay. Or, hey, Jordan, saw your response. What is a URL I can check out to learn more about you? Okay. So we want it to be personalized. We want it to be quick. We want it to use their name, and it seem like a person's actually texting. Now, number 2, the A stands for anchor the identity. So the focus of the call should be on the client and their aspirations. It's important to frame the conversation in a way that positions them as the hero. Okay. So pre-call language, use language that reflects their goals, such as, this is for founders ready to do A, B, and C, or you're exactly the type of person we built this for. Okay. And then we want to share testimonials that mirror their current challenges, not just the outcomes. Okay. So not this big shiny object of something that they may or may not be able to achieve, but the actual challenges. Okay. If you have a busy mom with multiple kids, send one over to them, as an example. Okay. So make sure the testimonials are personal and about their current challenges, not just the outcomes, not just the big wins. The S. Now this stands for stack the stakes. And really, we want to make the opportunity feel too valuable to miss. Now, the question would be, how do we actually do that? Well, highlighting the cost of not participating can enhance that level of commitment. So the cost of missing out, the fear of missing out, right? So communicate what they might lose if they don't show up, like lost revenue or wasted leads. So for us, it'd be like, hey, if you miss this call, just remember you may be losing $3,000 every single day. So let's go ahead and fix that, right? That's not the perfect example. Obviously, I'm going to reword that a little bit differently, but you get the point. We want to make sure that they see the connection to what they're losing if they don't solve the problem that they booked the call in the first place for. Okay. Next up is the pre-call text message. So send a pre-call text message such as, we'll break down where 30 to 50% of your revenue might be slipping through, and then create some scarcity. Okay. So, we don't have a ton of these slots, or we appreciate you finding the time that works. We know the calendars get full. So keep it, very straightforward, you don't want the scarcity to be cheesy, right? We don't want to lie. If you don't have any scarcity and you got completely open calendars, you also don't want to look like an idiot because you have 50 slots open on your calendar. Okay. So, pretty straightforward there. Now the C is co-create the agenda. So pre-call questions. We always like to create questions because it's going to incite a response. So the question could be something like, what is your number one bottleneck right now? The one I mentioned earlier, what is a good URL I can identify, or I can learn more about you at? Okay. So customize the confirmation. Use their response to tailor the session. Okay. So great. We'll unpack your lead follow-up gaps first. So whatever they respond with, make sure you respond with a personalized message. Okay. Now, something that we're getting at, and I haven't brought up yet, at RevPilot, we're big believers in pre-call conversations, not pre-call automations. Okay. So obviously you can't automate all of this because unless you have an AI doing it, and I just don't be doing that. It's just way too complicated. Okay. Your sales rep, or if you're watching this as a sales rep and you want to increase your own show rate, make sure you're having a conversation pre-call. Okay. You don't want to go too far into the conversation because you could have them kind of fall off because they get overwhelmed, but just a simple conversation. Let them know you're human. Okay. The next one is assign a micro task. So encourage commitment by asking leads to invest a small amount of effort before the call. So this is where the homework comes in. A lot of you are familiar with the homework, but we don't need to overcomplicate homework. It can be a pre-call video, maybe a 2-minute video to set the stage. It could be a personalized video from you if you have the time to be able to do that with your leads using something like HiBlue or SendBlue. And then task assignment. Ask them to bring something specific, like a screenshot of their CRM or recent leads. In our case, that's something we may do. For you, that might be bring your 3 favorite Instagram reels if you're a content agency, right? So pretty straightforward. You can even send a form, and have them fill out the form, whatever it may be. Okay. Now you want the micro task to actually be beneficial. You don't want them to feel like they're completing this thing for no reason, but you do want them to take an action. The more actions they take, the more investment that they have, the more likely they are to show up. Okay. Now the D is to define the time and place with authority. So a calendar invite, text confirmation, details, and a personal touch. Okay. Be very straightforward about how they should show up, where they should show up, and when they show up. Okay. And then E, engineer the reminder cadence. So reminders should be helpful, not annoying. This is a big difference. You can still have reminders automated, but that does not mean that you are replacing your conversation, your pre-call conversation that I mentioned earlier. Okay. So we want to engineer the reminder cadence, 3 hours before, 15 minutes before, 24 hours before. Keep it super simple. Make sure the Zoom link is in there, email and text message, and make sure it's from a short code so they know it's different than you actually texting them. You don't want to send them the reminder yourself. Okay. So have it pop up. And then you, again, in the conversation, hey, I'll see you in 20 minutes. Right? Hey, I'll see you in a few hours. I'm excited for our conversation. Your job is not to send the Zoom link. It's not to sound like a robot. It's to sound human. Okay. Now, when you combine all of these together, you will see an increase in your connection rate. At the end of the day, make it human, make it high touch, make it relevant, and make it seem like you actually give a shit about your clients. Okay. And I promise you will see a massive increase. Now, if you are doing all of these already, which most people are not, but if let's say you are doing all of these, then you need to move a little further up. So we got to look at your marketing. Like, who is actually booking these calls in the first place? Because if there's no urgency or they're just a wrong fit, you can do all of this and it's not going to matter. So do this first. If that does not get you to a 70% plus show rate, then we need to look at the actual lead quality, the marketing, and what is actually being said prior to them booking the call. Because if we haven't set clear expectations prior to booking the call, or we have the wrong leads, then it doesn't really matter what you do during this sequence. Okay. But try this first. Let me know in the comments what your experience was after implementing these things. If you learned something new, leave that in the comments as well. And yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and check out our other videos. Cheers.